with Satan.
No, every single
That's
one.
a covenant.
Every single. Whoa. Every single movie I see with a partnership, it always goes south, because one person gets greedy and takes it.
Ghost Rider?
Ghost Rider was the deal with Satan.
Yeah, exactly. That was pretty good. It was pretty good. Keep that
It
Sunday
was
sound.
brutal. Yeah,
All right,
that's
so-
south.
Partnerships, obviously, business with 2 or more people, not considered a corporation. Okay? Not considered a corporation. So 2 or more people, this would be probably, a little smaller businesses.
What's the difference between like LLC, INC, and corporation?
I have no idea.
Is it like what corporations start out like? So like Microsoft, it would just start out as like, just like this little like.
I would guess, yes.
thing.
And then it just keeps
Just
growing.
keeps growing.
I gotta figure that out. So firm went from LLC to INC.
I've never heard of an INC.
Here, I'll search it.
It's like
Incorporated.
incorporated.
Incorporation versus a.
I don't know what LLC is.
Maybe we See?
That was weird. I don't think so.
Yeah, we can stop that. No, I got the second level.
LLC is a limited liability company. It says start an LLC and protect your personal assets.
You can't lose as much money with LLC, I'm pretty sure. Remember that from business. No, insurance business. What's INs?
So LLC is owned, okay, I'll look what INC is.
LLCs are private.
LLC.
No matter what, yeah, it's private.
Better for max flexibility in how you manage and run your business.
So
You're not-
like, it's
because
not,
I don't
it's a
think
step, it's a step below.
I
like,
had to
corporation.
update my resume. My mom made me because we're,
Oh, this is a big one right here. LLCs can't go public.
but we're not public.
What do you mean?
An incorporation is the formation
Right,
of
so
a new corporation.
You could put your farm out to other people to invest in. If it's an LLC.
Still don't as an INC, so would there be even be a reason why we changed it? Taxes maybe? It's gotta do with taxes, just like that.
I don't see
Getting around taxes.
I don't see INC. I see a C corporation or an S corporation.
I was watching a YouTube video about it.
I'll ask Dan about it.
On real estate, you could tax less with that, but I don't know about it.
It says when you have like Inc., it's incorporated, and it said when a company is incorporated, it means that it has formally designated itself as a corporation under the laws of at least one state. So it can't go public with the whole country, it's only a corporation within one state. Is basically what it's saying. That's why all of this is operating as a corporation in the eyes of the government and the IRS. So basically, you guys are a corporation through the eyes of the IRS and the government, but you're only a corporation in Iowa, nowhere else.
So we're big enough for more taxes.
Either that, or then maybe there's like more benefits than being an LLC than drawbacks.
It might be because, because we work with a ton of people. So that could be a partner for.
Okay, so LLC is the abbreviation, that means that a company is a limited liability company. This type of company is owned by its members.
Because we have like an LS Farmers
Ask
Inc.
for
and then
tax
7
liability
LLCs.
to the company. You're the very,
Yeah,
very
like
Remember the particular liability which applies with it. So you guys must make enough money that you need to have.
Probably, because we have
Because
LS Farms Inc. is like the big one, and then we have 7 LLCs.
yeah, so LLC is basically like when you guys get your money in for the year, you don't have to pay income tax. But your members that work for the company do.
Yeah.
But then with now being an Inc., you're under the IRS and the government, so you have to pay probably income tax on everything, but then you get more payouts.
So it's probably not what Dan did, he probably had to do that.
Yeah, he was probably,
Right.
his
Once you
tax,
get to a certain
yeah,
level.
his-
IRS or something. probably.
his tax guy probably told him if he didn't go under Inc., that he'd probably get investigated.
So in a partnership here, you're going to try to figure out your net income and net loss, and then you're going to figure out how to distribute those net incomes or losses. And this is, again, this was kind of interesting to me. So we're going to figure out by, first off, the proportion that you invested in. So let's just say Derek and Tragan are both they go together to form their company, their partnership, and Tragan puts in 60% compared to Derek's 40%. So they would have a set amount of money, and then it's going to be distributed by that same 60-40 relationship, okay? So when you do this, you gotta figure out what your grand total is. So they would figure out what their amount was that they needed to start there. And then they would take that and divide it by each individual portion of it. So then Derek's money divided by the grand total and Tragan's money divided by the grand total, and that would give them a percentage. And then the percentage would be used for income or loss. So then at the very end, if they figured out that they had a net income, then Derek's percentage was 0.6 compared to Tragan's 0.4. They would multiply those percentages by the net income, and Derek would basically get 60% and Tragan would get 40%, or whatever the numbers. Did you switch? Did I say it the other way at the beginning? Okay, so you can do it that way, and we'll go through an example of that, or you can have a fixed ratio or a fixed percent. So what's a ratio to you? What's that mean if you hear the word ratio? A fraction, right? What was another way of showing a ratio?
2 dots.
The dots, right? Okay, so that's kind of what they show in this one right here. So a fixed ratio to them is this right here. So your ratio was 5 to 4. So if you notice in 5 to 4, basically what you have to do is take those two numbers, and what the 5 to 4 really means is that there's 9 equal parts in the partnership or in the company. And so then one of the people has 5 amounts, the other people have 4 amounts. So you would take your grand total, you would divide it by 11, and that would be your equal amount. And then the person that put in more, that had the ratio of 5, would get 5 payments of, let's just say $1,000 to make it easy, and the other person would only get 4 payments of $1,000.
So in the partnership, like if you both like kind of start going down, would you both take the hit equally, or what your percentage and ratio?
That would be, again, determined by that partner agreement, and you would have that all written out. So if it, again, was a 60-40, if he's gonna get 60% of the good, he probably has to pay 60% of the bad too, or take the 60% of the bad loss, and the other guy would be the 40. Why would they do this? That would, again, just be a different way of showing that you put in more money than Carter.
You said divide by 11. Where do you get 11?
Did I say 11? I meant 9, sorry. I think 11's in the example. Okay? So it's, and then again, a fixed percent would be what it sounds like. It's just, it's a lot like this first one by the investment, but you would just go ahead and figure out your actual percentage. And again, we'll show you that. And then there's another one that basically you get interest on your investment. This one was kind of interesting to me. So basically, let's just say that partners invest different amounts. They're going to be paid interest on their investments. So if whatever your money is that you put in, your partnership decided that at the end, you're going to get an 8% kind of bonus or interest rate. Okay, so if Derek puts in, again, let's just keep it easy, $200,000, and Tragan puts in $150,000, they would do 8% of that, all right, and figure out what it would be that they're going to make if they had an extra. And then so he would do 8% of his $150,000 or 200, whatever I said, and then Tragan would do 8% of his 150 and see what those totals were. And if then there was still money left over after they found that percentage of that gain, then they would divide that up
That'd be
even.
the dividend.
Yeah, that would be the dividend. So you would get your 8% no matter what. But then if there's anything extra, then you would split it right down the middle. So you're still getting more essentially
Oh, that's-
because you put in more because, you know, you're both getting 8%, but you're getting more money because you had a higher percentage of the amount. And again, that one was interesting to me, and we'll show you an example of that too. So basically, there's 3 different ways that they showed in this chapter how you can do this.
If you were
So you can do it by what you invested, by your rate or ratios, and then this last one by the interest.
If you were invested into enough companies, would you be able to like, live off the dividends, or are they so small that you wouldn't be able to?
I wouldn't say, well, those kind of companies, possibly, but if you're doing that, you got so much money that you don't really care anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got things in everything, you know, so you got land and stuff. I heard the other day on the radio, Bill Gates was getting divorced.
Yeah.
And he's the highest
Highest
landowner
landowner.
in the United States. And so they're really waiting to see what's gonna happen to that land.
I'm pretty sure.
Divorce.
Wait, he didn't get Bill Gates didn't get a prenup.
No,
I don't think so.
What a idiot.
well, back then,
Well, still.
I mean, yeah,
They were
still,
probably
but
the
they were,
richest man
yeah,
in
they
the
were
world.
married.
They were married when he started
being
Microsoft.
Microsoft.
Really?
Yeah, they've been married for a while, they have kids together that are like 27 years.
Surprised me that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's how long it was?
But like, I'm pretty sure he paid her out immediately. I saw like
Oh, did he?
the day after, he gave her like a $1.2 million payout of all of
He
her
was
stocks.
smart. Yeah, he just gave her the payout.
I'm pretty sure he just gave her
Yeah.
the payout immediately. I'm pretty sure, I didn't really see like. her-
He had a big chunk in Nebraska, it was kind
Yeah.
of shocking.
Yes.
He has a land all over the place.
Alright, so let's look at a couple of these
You
examples.
could live off of
Like I said, this is kind of interesting to me. So turn to page 523.
Which page you get to?
Page 523. So, on 523, letter A, Aguilar and Trent share their partnership in net income in proportion to their investments. Aguilar put in $180,000 and Trent put in $120,000. What is each partner's share of this year's $64,000 net income? So, in this one right here, I'm gonna take and add up how much was invested. So what's my grand total of my investment? 300,000. Then I'm gonna take each guy's amount and put it over that 300,000. So I'm gonna take 180,000 divided by 300,000.
Wait, so you add the first two and then what?
So now I'm gonna take that amount
Yeah.
and I'm gonna take each individual amount here. So the first guys, I added them together and I got $300,000. So that's my total investment. And then the first guy was 180,000. So I'm gonna make a fraction out of that. So I'm figuring out what percentage that I get, basically, from the amount that I had. And I believe this is 0.6. So then I'm gonna take 0.6 times whatever our income was, which is $64,000. And if I take 0.6 times 64,000, we get what? Somebody do that? 38,400. So Aguilar gets $38,400 of the $64,000 because he put in 60% of the amount that they started the business with.
If the business gets like bigger, do they continue to hold that?
That percentage, I
Yeah.
would guess, yes. Yes, unless,
Unless they sell.
or they, the other guy said, well, now I have enough to get back to even, so, maybe they.
So if it's a startup and like you just invest 180,000 into it and then it becomes like a multi-million-dollar company, then you're still getting.
He's still gonna get a 60%. Yeah. So that it would still be 60-40 until that other guy would catch up to that original amount.
Yeah.
So being like the leader, like say like you got into the partnership together, and like it becomes like a multi-million-billion-dollar business. Would it be, I don't know, like, well, would it be like easier to navigate with just like one person or both? Would you try to like sell one guy out and try to like take it one direction, but then like tell him like I'll pay you out so like I get you 60, but like if you still share, get your stock, like share it. Like give them money still, but then like you still get your payouts.
What's the question?
Like would it be easier to go sell it or like keep you with you?
Well, yeah, those are,
Yeah, but
it's kind of a trap question because
Running a lollipop business or real estate business.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter.
But the other thing that you gotta think about is, okay, so let's just say that it's you and Derek. And let's just say that even at the beginning, you were split down 50-50. But then when you started reaching out to people, maybe Derek knows more people than you know. And maybe he's more of the one end of the spectrum of the business, and you're the other end of the spectrum of the business. If you all of a sudden want to buy him out, do you know how to do his end of the business? You know what I mean? So not all the time is it going to be, when I split it down 50-50, it's not like we both understand everything the same 50-50.
Could you just be like a silent investor and not have anything to
Absolutely.
do with the company besides
Absolutely.
buttons?
So then you're just the money guy. Yeah. And that's probably where somebody like Bill Gates would have been in a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sharks.
Yeah. In a sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So does that make sense? Pretty interesting. The next one, you do the exact same thing. There's just 3 people. Okay. For letter B.
My dad does a lot of that stuff with ethanol plants.
Right.
When they started building them around here.
Sure.
And they started getting into a bunch of them.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, turn the page. So the next one, we've kind of done this, in a sense before. So, letter C, can't say those people's names, so we'll say Tan and Sikorsky share the net income of $24,000 from the partnership in the ratio of 6-5. What does each partner share? So again, when they say 6-5, there's 11 total, right? So I'm gonna take 11 and I'm gonna take whatever the amount was. What was it, 24,000? So I'm gonna take 24,000 times or divide it by 11, because there should be 11 equal shares in that. Or you could just go back and basically do the same thing that we did here. So you could do this and find your answer here, and then take that answer times 6 for the one guy and times 5 for the other guy. Or you could do what we did in this problem right here and basically take and add those things together, and then just take 6 out of 11 and 5 out of 11 and multiply it by that 24. And those answers right there would give you the same exact answer. That's however you want to figure it out. Okay? So essentially those first 2 are kind of the same. And then in D, they're just talking about a percentage. So notice my percentages were 58 and 42. I'm just going to take those percentages and multiply it by my income that year. And again, like you said, so what am I, if it happens to be a net loss, who pays for it? It's going to be in that same proportion, or that same percentages. Okay? The last one was a little bit more, I don't know about confusing, but kind of interesting to me. Okay, so in letter E, it says Ziegler and Soga are partners with investments of $250,000 and $375,000 respectively. The partners receive 10% interest annually on their investments. The rest of the net income is divided equally. What is each partner's total share of a net income of $96,000? So again, the one guy was in for $375,000. The other person was what? $250,000. The first thing that you're going to do is give each their amount. So they each get 10%. But it's 10% of what they put in. Okay, so 10% of this would be what? What do I do?
37,000.
Yeah, just move it over, right? So 37,500, this person gets 25,000, okay? So now this is where I was kind of confused. I'm like, well, I don't get it really. But now take these two and add them together. Add those two amounts together and we get what? 0, 0, 5, 12, 62,500. That is the amount that each, or the grand total of what they get because of their investments. But how much did we have as our net income? So you have to take your 96, did you say 600? Or just 96,000? Then you take your grand total of your amount that you were ahead, and you subtract those two. So we get, right, 33,500. And then this is what's basically left over after we already paid what we took in as our investment. And so this amount we would take and divide by 2 because we're going to split the remainder equally right down the middle. That makes sense? So if we take 33,500 divided by 2, how much do we get? 16,750. That's going to go to each of the partners on top of what they originally got because of what they invested. Okay?
When they talk about like shareholders in a business, they're not talking about like stock market, they're talking about
kind of like this. It would be like this percentage. So like if you're like an employee owned like Hy-Vee, if you work there, you're supposedly a part of the corporation.
Yeah.
So you get 0.001%. So when there's
Because like Ganglers and Remsen has like 6 shareholders or something.
right, so
So it'd
then
just be.
it would be if they're equal shareholders and they had $64,000 worth of net income at the end of the year, they would divide that by 6.
Oh, okay.
Now, if their shareholders, grandpa has, 5 shares and then all the sons have 5 shares. So there's 6 people, but grandpa has 5 shares, so he's gonna get half of it first, and then they would divvy up the rest of it. So a shareholder, you get a percentage of how you get. So again, this would be your comment.
Is there a limit to that, or can they keep adding people in if they want?
You can, but then, yeah, it's just gonna get, your percentage is gonna get more distorted.
Okay, so.
Right. And that would be where then, if you're going to, again, you probably won't do this as much in those kind of little things. It'd probably be a little bit bigger of a company.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to then build a new machine shed and you didn't have the capital maybe right away, you could, those people would be invest into and you would they would get buy-in shares basically. So you would say each share is worth whatever. And then that, when they buy that in, they're paying for that tractor or whatever in that situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically it's just that percentage of what you would get. So again, if you're the CEO of a company, you probably have a lot of shares in that company. But if I'm a everyday worker at Hy-Vee, I could have on top of what they gave me. I can always buy more into it, but.
There's a shrimp farm coming in South Dakota asking for investors.
Really?
And it's got I set up a meeting with him and stuff. And so I was like talking to him, but it's a $100,000 buy-in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For
Where's that at?
That's like the minimum buy-in. No, I don't know.
Lennox?
I don't know. It's in South. I just know.
So going back to that, so then every person that got $100,000 or gave $100,000 would have the minimum amount of shares.
Oh.
And then if you gave 250, you would get extra just because your amount is more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically,
And they did.
you're investing into it, so they need your money to actually open up the business.
Yeah.
Yep. So, like I said, this section actually kind of means something because a lot of you are thinking about money, and it shows you how you're going to get that money out of certain situations. So it was kind of an interesting one to me. next, or tomorrow, or wherever we're at. Monday?
Today's correct.
Thanks. Well, you can come in tomorrow if you want.
I'll be
Do
able
you
to.
remember that time I came in on a Saturday because I was gone and you were really mad because,
It was a Saturday.
no, because I was confused about the day that you told me to come in and take my test and you were so mad. And I remember you gave me my test, left the room, never came back.